You are equipped with a kitchen knife, with an attack power of +1 and the ability to gain sharpness. Your right hand can cut any vegetables and meat. You are equipped with a stone, with a defense of +2 and an ability of hard. Your skin can be transformed into a stone, and your movement is not restricted. Special reminder, it cannot be done there. You are equipped with a telescope and have acquired the ability Jimu. You can freely change the focus of your gaze and see beautiful women from afar. Friendly reminder, first pay attention to her eyes. If she doesn't notice you, then your gaze may be bolder. You are equipped with an airplane and have acquired the ability to fly. After a brief run-up, you can soar through the sky, but please pay attention to air traffic control. You are equipped with a slaying immortal flying sword with an attack power of +10086 and the ability to damage immortals, which comes from all your attacks and causes double damage to immortals. Years later, Yang Xiaobai's expression was as follows. Equipped with a kitchen knife, you can only kill your ex-girlfriend, but equipped with 3 trillion knives, you can chop down these annoying so-called gods. Born in a chaotic world, let's unlock the invincible hook. Chapter 1 Forbidden Area. Zombie City. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Has Xiaobai already died? The breath is already slightly inaudible, probably won't last tonight, will it? This guy is really unlucky. With so many people taking the college entrance examination and just entering the zombie city in less than a day, is he going to get infected? I deserve it, thinking that my physical fitness is stronger. After practicing a few ancient martial arts, can I block 10 with one move? With so many living corpses, he's not enough to fill people's teeth. Wang Refu, what do you mean by this? After all, he is our classmate. If it weren't for the commotion caused by you and Li Jiangling fighting for that pistol just now, how could they have encountered a group of corpses in the outer city? That's right, now he's still talking cold words with a shy face on the side. Humph, that's Yang Xiaobai showing off his personal heroism. If he had to cut it off, it's none of my business. How could such words come out of your mouth? Do you still have human nature? Yang Xiaobai was in a daze, seeming to hear someone around him discussing his name. He was noisy, like a fly in a meeting, and only heard a few faint words. Immediately afterwards, a severe stabbing pain came from deep within the mind, instantly overwhelming all external sounds. This is a vast amount of memory information. Yang Xiaobai, who had just regained consciousness, was instantly knocked unconscious by this torrent. I don't know how long it took before he woke up leisurely. Originally, he was an ordinary employee on Earth. Because I was caught by the boss to accompany clients on Saturday, I had a few more drinks, and when I woke up, I had already traveled to this guy with the same name and surname. What kind of ghost, can you travel through time with just a meal and a drink? Without opening his eyes immediately, Yang Xiaobai savored memories in his mind that did not belong to him. After digesting the memories of the original body, he finally understood the current situation. This world is also Earth, similar to a parallel world. Historical and geographical convergence. But the difference is that this world began to undergo tremendous changes 60 years ago, heading on a path completely different from that of the original planet. In January 1964, a black giant tower appeared silently in the central region of Xia's old Xinjiang, reaching over 2,500 meters high, 2.5 times the height of the world's tallest building, the Jeddah Tower. This black tower soars into the sky, shrouded in dark mist for 2 kilometers. No modern instrument can detect the secrets inside, and the investigators dispatched by major organizations around the world are like mud cows entering the sea, with no further news. The appearance of the black giant tower has led scientists from all over Earth to conduct day and night surveys and calculations. Based on feedback from satellite maps, they have made astonishing discoveries. The appearance of this giant tower violates any existing scientific theorem of humanity. It did not appear directly in the original position of Earth, but suddenly squeezed into the Earth like a puzzle. In other words, the surface area of Earth has increased by an extra block. Fortunately, after the appearance of this black tower, it did not have any further impact. Humanity can only keep a distance, with a restricted area set up 20 kilometers near the black tower, and several special forces stationed outside the area to take precautions. However, before this matter could be digested, in February of the same year, a 10,000 zhang abyss appeared in the coastal area of the peninsula where Maligian, Florida was located, forcefully dividing the peninsula in half from the middle. The abyss is directly connected to the sea, and seawater is flowing backwards. After nearly half a month, people were horrified to discover that the abyss was filled with seawater. Along with it came one after another humanoid floating corpses that were clearly non-terrestrial creatures. In October 1965, 50 nautical miles away from Antarctica, a magnificent ice palace emerged, quietly drifting on the sea and drifting with the waves. In May 1966, next to the East Stem Iron Tower in the island country, a towering ancient tree stood side by side, and it seemed that many tree holes had been dug out on the tree. Some people say that they have seen humanoid creatures shuttle through the tree hole with their own eyes, but they are obstructed by the green mist around the ancient tree, making it difficult to see and explore inside. In May, a prison covering an extremely large area appeared in Western Africa, embedded in the map. The Black Tower seems to represent the arrival of a supernatural era. Since then, there have been eerie and mysterious buildings or terrains all over the world, like mushrooms sprouting up after rain, beginning to go crazy. It was not until 2012, 12 years ago, that this growth had a trend of stopping. According to incomplete statistics, in less than 50 years, there have been over 300 eerie maps in the world that do not belong to the original planet. The most direct consequence of this is that Earth expands like a balloon, with its surface area constantly increasing. These buildings and terrains occupy varying sizes and styles. And the only commonality is that the body is filled with thick fog of different colors, whether black fog, green fog, or white fog. The mist is dense and hazy, and humans entering it will be completely lost and will never be able to return. Since then, countries around the world have referred to these buildings and terrains as forbidden areas and strictly prohibit entry. It seems that as long as this is done, forbidden areas can be peaceful with humans. Until 10 years ago, the fog outside a certain building suddenly dissipated overnight, and a skull suspected of wisdom emerged from it, officially starting the war between humans and the Forbidden City. In December 2014, the first forbidden zone with dissipated fog appeared. Code name: City of Skeletons, Sequence D276, Forbidden Domain Creatures. Skeletons. The World Prohibited Domain Research Institute ranks these prohibited domains based on their occurrence time, and divides them into 5 levels from low to high. D, C, B, A, and S, based on the degree of harm that has been detected. The capital of Skull is the 276th appearance, a D.level forbidden domain. And those still enveloped in mist that cannot be detected are labeled as X. For example, X001 Forbidden Domain. Black Tower. The war between humans and the Skull capital lasted for less than half a month. In the face of various modern weapons, even these eerie undead creatures are constantly retreating and being beaten, leaving their ashes flying all over the city. On New Year's Day 2015, humans officially occupied the Skull capital. At the same time, the advance troops entering this forbidden domain discovered that as long as they were stimulated in the Skull capital, humans had a chance to awaken extraordinary abilities that previously existed only in fantasy works. Subsequently, countries around the world confirmed this claim in other areas where fog had dissipated. This discovery officially marks the beginning of human evolution. The military of various countries quickly grasped the forbidden zone for the disappearance of fog within their own borders, arranged suitable personnel to enter the D.level forbidden zone with the lowest degree of harm for trial, and stimulated the awakening of the whole nation. And adopted the college entrance examination system. 10 years ago, during the education reform in Xia dynasty, there were no longer separate subjects for arts and sciences, but English was abolished. The remaining subjects were collectively referred to as humanities, and martial arts were established, offering multiple subjects such as combat, ancient martial arts, simplified medical care, wilderness survival, and common knowledge of forbidden areas. Every year, all fresh candidates will be arranged to enter the Forbidden Zone to participate in the martial arts exam and awaken their extraordinary abilities. Those who have successfully awakened will enter the newly established martial arts university, while those who have not awakened will choose a liberal arts college. If you die in the Forbidden Domain college entrance examination, you can only consider yourself unlucky. The emergence of forbidden territories is an unprecedented challenge faced by humanity, and no one can stand idly by. Death is also a sacrifice for the country, and there is nothing to say. And today is June 6, 2024, the National College Entrance Examination. Former Yang Xiaobai was one of the millions of candidates. Their examination room is D213, Zombie City. Chapter 2. Why am I in a cage? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The memories in his mind were modeled and complex, and Yang Xiaobai spent a lot of effort organizing them. His eyes opened slightly, and he was taken aback by the criss-crossing iron nets. A cage. Yang Xiaobai exclaimed in shock, flipped over from the cold ground and sat down, looking around. This is an open warehouse, cluttered with many discarded appliances, seemingly like a recycling station. Only the dim yellow headlights hung weakly in mid-air, with slightly dim light. And at this moment, I am locked in a cage. In addition, there were several tattered bedding beds laid on the open cement floor, and several young men and women lying horizontally and vertically. Others rest by leaning against walls or old appliances, closing their eyelids. Based on his original memory, Yang Xiaobai recognized them. The Xia National College Entrance Examination adopts a point system, with one score being the group score, consisting of 10 students in groups, for humanities students, and 6 martial arts students. Require mutual cooperation in the zombie city, and after completing the task, add team scores to each person based on the number of surviving teams. For each surviving member in the team, an additional 10 points will be given per person. If a team can survive for all 10 people, each person's additional team score is 100 points. The people in front of me who are resting are my team members. There was only one tall ponytail girl wearing a coat, with her arms around her chest, sitting at the entrance of the warehouse with sleepy eyes, guarding the night. The large iron gate of the warehouse was obstructed by debris, but it was obvious that these students were not at ease, so a dedicated person was sent to guard the night. Yang Xiaobai searched for information about the girl in his memory. Her name is Zhou Rou, and she is Yang Xiaobai's classmate. She is both a martial arts student and has average relationships. Yang Xiaobai, the predecessor of the school, was a well-known kind-hearted person who always responded to requests and was willing to help others. This personality was able to get along well in the past society and made a few good friends. However, since the turmoil in the forbidden area 10 years ago, the world has been like the end of the world, and everyone is in danger. His personality is inevitably at a disadvantage. The reason why his predecessor died was because he had just entered the outer city and encountered a large group of live corpses. In order for his own classmates to retreat smoothly, this foolish boy asked other classmates to leave first, leaving his own behind. The speed of a living corpse may not be fast, but it wins by being tireless. After chasing Yang Xiaobai tightly for several streets, he finally blocked him in a dead end. Fortunately, there were still some miscellaneous items nearby. Yang Xiaobai immediately climbed up and planned to climb over the wall, but the speed slowed down a bit and was still bitten by a live corpse on his ankle. After avoiding the group of corpses, I had just joined up with my classmates in the warehouse when my predecessor fainted, which was the only way to save Yang Xiaobai, another ordinary employee who had come through time. It is precisely this kind of ungrateful personality that makes his former classmates appear enthusiastic about him on the surface, but secretly treat him like a fool. But Zhou Rou is different. She is a prominent figure in the entire Jiangyuan No. 1 middle school, not only because of her beautiful face and superior family background, but also because she is the only girl in the top 10 of the martial arts class. Various conditions combined have earned Zhou Rou the reputation of being a goddess of martial arts at school. So, even though they are classmates, there is very little intersection between these two individuals with completely different personalities and situations. Upon hearing the sound coming from inside the cage, Zhou Rou instinctively turned around to look. Seeing that Yang Xiaobai had already awakened, a hint of hesitation appeared on her face. After hesitating for a moment, Zhou Rou stood up from her chair, walked over, took out a bottle of water from her backpack behind her, and handed it to Yang Xiaobai. "Drink some water." Without accepting her kindness, Yang Xiaobai frowned and asked, "Why am I locked up in a cage?" Seeing that he had not taken the water, Zhou Rou was taken aback. Her tone of voice was cold and emotionless, which was somewhat different from the kind old man who always smiles warmly at everyone. She then thought to herself, perhaps because he was imprisoned by his classmates and felt resentful. So she silently withdrew her palm. "You have been bitten by a living corpse. According to the examination materials provided by the college, there is a 65% chance that you will become a living corpse and become part of the zombie city. Therefore, you must be quarantined within 12 hours. Yang Xiaobai suppressed his anger and said, "So you put me in such a dog cage. Sorry, the only space in this warehouse is considered separate, so we can only do this. It's for the responsibility of all team members." Zhou Rou seemed a bit guilty and said weakly. Yang Xiaobai also knows that there is no better way to understand special situations and special treatment. But the death of his predecessor still made him feel a bit frustrated. Even if they are bad people, at least they are doing a righteous act just to make their classmates escape. As a result, after their predecessor fainted, these so-called classmates actually locked themselves in a dog cage. You are really a group of good classmates. He also understood that in this situation, people who were bitten by live corpses should be isolated, otherwise if there were any changes, everyone would have an accident. But understanding comes from understanding. Anyone who wakes up and finds themselves locked in a dog cage will not have a good mood. It's not that these guys know that the predecessor of Yang Xiaobai had a gentle and weak personality. Otherwise, it would never be possible to make such insulting behavior. Whose idea was this? Yang Xiaobai knew that with Zhou Rou's temperament, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Zhou Rou hesitated and said, "Wang rejected the proposal from Li Jiangling." He. Yang Xiaobai could only sneer and looked at the two people who were laying a shop in the warehouse with a stern gaze. "How long has it been now? Can you let me out now?" Zhou Rou looked at the college entrance examination recorder on her wrist. This is an instrument specially developed in recent years to cope with the restricted college entrance examination. It can record all the activities of candidates in the restricted area and also has some simple functions such as communication, statistics, and timing. 11 hours have passed. As long as you persist for another hour without any alienation, they can release you. Okay. After a moment of silence, Yang Xiaobai suddenly asked, "Why didn't you sleep?" Zhou Judo said, "Everyone takes turns on duty, each for 2 hours. It's just my turn." Yang Xiaobai sneered, "They should be rushing to be on duty for you, right?" Well, Zhou Rou handed the mineral water in her hand to the cage again, "But I can do my own thing well on my own and don't need their attention." This time, Yang Xiaobai did not refuse again. After all, he fell asleep for more than 10 hours, and coupled with the previous escape from the corpse, it had already made his mouth dry and his organs burning like fire. After receiving the water, he opened the lid and poured it vigorously. However, the infusion was too strong and accidentally choked into the trachea, causing an uncontrollable burst of intense coughing. The conversation between the two was originally very quiet and low. The uncontrollable cough echoed continuously in this empty warehouse, instantly breaking the original tranquility. Several classmates sleeping on the ground were instantly awakened. Before Yang Xiaobai could catch his breath, a voice full of shock and anger suddenly sounded, "Yang Xiaobai, what are you doing? Stay away from Zhou Rou." Immediately after, a tall boy jumped up from the ground and rushed a few steps between Zhou Rou and the cage. It was evident that Yang Xiaobai inside the cage still looked like a human, with clear pupils and no fangs protruding from the corners of his mouth. With a worried expression on his face, he turned around to ask Zhou Rou for warmth and comfort. "Zhou Rou, are you okay? Didn't I tell you that this guy could be dismembered at any time? You must keep a safe distance from him." Zhou Rou shook her head and said, "Wang Ju, you misunderstood. I saw him wake up and wanted to give him some water to drink." Wang refused to grab Zhou Rou's arm to see if she was unwell, but the latter calmly avoided her. His eyelids trembled slightly, he didn't say anything, just turned around to look at Yang Xiaobai in the cage. "You don't know how precious water is in the zombie city. Give it to him to drink. If it really turns into a corpse, wouldn't it be a waste?" Chapter 3. Crossing with Ding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Listening to Wang's sarcastic remarks outside the cage, Yang Xiaobai was too lazy to pay attention to him. In his past life, at least he also wandered in the workplace and struggled in society for many years. He understood that there were two types of the most useless words in this world. One is the sweet words of a scumbag before deceiving you to open a house. The second is harsh words about not being able to descend the stairs. Now he is locked in a cage, and to get out, he needs these guys with keys. Sitting inside and arguing with Wang Refu has no effect. With this effort, it's better to think about how to get out. Yang Xiaobai was half squatting in the cage. Although the dog cage was quite large, it was not high, and at his height of 1.78 meters, he could not stand upright. Reached out and touched the wire of the cage. It's quite sturdy. It should be that I have previously kept a large dog, with some black dog fur left between the interlocking iron nets. Although my predecessor was a martial arts student who underwent professional physical training at school, wanting to open this cage by hand was like Lu Lao Lao opening beer with her teeth. Fantastic thoughts come to mind. Seeing Yang Xiaobai's low eyebrows and pleasing eyes, Wang refused was even more proud. Previously, Yang Xiaobai's cough had already awakened all the students present, and now they were all gathered around. A short boy wearing a baseball cap kicked the cage with his foot. Yang Xiaobai glanced at him. The boy took the opportunity to observe. After taking a few glances, he shook his head and said to the other people, "Yang Xiaobai is really tough. He was bitten so deeply by a live corpse on his foot, but he hasn't turned into a corpse yet." Zhou Rou glanced at him and said, "Li Jiangling, can we let him out now?" There were also a few people in the team who couldn't bear it. After all, it was just a classmate scene, and they didn't want to keep Yang Xiaobai in a cage. However, if Yang Xiaobai becomes a corpse, it will threaten every member of the team, and they have no reason to oppose it. No way. Before Li Jiangling could reply, Wang Refu, who was standing in front of Zhou Rou, intercepted and refused. The incubation period for corpse transformation is 12 hours, and there is still 1 hour left. His condition cannot be determined. Li Jiangling also nodded. Another girl wearing glasses hesitated and said, "But according to the exam materials, if you are bitten or scratched by a live corpse, if there is alienation within 12 hours, such as pupil dilation, rapid growth of canine teeth, pale skin, and unconscious babbling, there is a chance of becoming a live corpse. But after 11 hours, the little white is still very normal and should be okay." Zhou Rou's eyes lit up and she said, "Yes, there hasn't been any alienation at all, basically no possibility of zombieization. The weather is so cold, he hasn't eaten anything for a long time, so let him out directly." Yeah, anyway, we belong to the same team, so it's not appropriate to keep him in a cage like this now. Wang Ju saw more and more classmates speaking for Yang Xiaobai. He glanced at Li Jiangling and suddenly said, "Okay, since everyone is saying that, then let him go. If he turns into a corpse in the last hour, then everyone will have their own destiny. Li Jiangling, are you with the key to the cage? Open it for him." Li Jiangling looked surprised and said, "Didn't you keep it?" Wang frowned and said, "Don't joke, I remember the key was with you." "Impossible, why is your memory so bad?" "It's because you said you can keep it safe." It was the two of them who first found the cage and key in this warehouse, and it was also them who personally locked Yang Xiaobai into the cage. So who exactly holds the key, others really don't know. At this moment, I saw the two of them kicking the ball back and forth, clearly shifting blame and not wanting to open the cage. "That's enough." Zhou Rou's face turned red with anger from them and she said, "Wang Refu, quickly take out the key and open the cage." Seeing the goddess who had been pursuing him for a long time angry over other boys, Wang Refu's eyes were filled with anger, but in the end, he pretended to be an extremely gentleman and shrugged. "Huh, Zhou Rou, I'm just joking with Xiao Bai. The key is with me, can't I unlock it?" With a smile on his face, Wang Ju reached into his pocket and was suddenly taken aback. Then his face changed and he hurriedly said, "Where's the key?" Quickly groping on his body for a while, half a day later, under the tense gaze of other classmates, Wang refused to twitch at the corner of his mouth and said, "The key is missing." Zhou Rou didn't believe it at all and started groping in his pocket. Unexpectedly, Wang Ju really didn't have a key on his body. I took a few steps closer to Li Jiangling, then groped around him for a while, but I didn't notice either. Where exactly did the key go? Zhou Rou is really in a hurry next week. Don't worry if you lose your keys elsewhere. But this is a forbidden area, a city of living corpses. Even in the outer city, there are countless living corpses wandering around day and night. Once you smell the scent of humanity, it's a relentless pursuit. That's also why they have to arrange personnel to take turns guarding the night while resting here. They are always preparing to be discovered by live corpses and also constantly preparing to escape. The prerequisite for awakening extraordinary power in the Forbidden Domain martial arts examination is to survive. Every year, there are tens of thousands of candidates who die in the restricted college entrance examination, and the level of danger is self-evident. Find the key quickly. Someone anxiously let out a low shout, and a group of people immediately became chaotic. One by one, they were flipping back and forth on the floor, searching and searching. Even Wang Refu and Li Jiangling looked extremely anxious and threw themselves into the search. Just as a group of people, regardless of whether they were really anxious or not, were searching for the key to Yang Xiaobai's cage. Yang Xiaobai, however, was slightly stunned as he caressed the cage, listening to the sudden cold mechanical voice in his mind. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Infinite Equipment System, current version 1.0, with 3 open equipment columns. Please obtain equipment as soon as possible, current equipment level. Normal, note. Equipment levels are normal, excellent, classic, epic, legendary, and mythical. Host exclusive capabilities for version 1.0, implementation, visualization. You can visualize items that have already been equipped within your own 10-meter range. If the items are damaged or left outside, the equipment column will still retain their position. Note. Equipment items cannot be disassembled. System. Is this the golden finger that travelers must have? Yang Xiaobai showed a satisfied smile at the corner of his mouth. In his previous life, when he was young, he also read some online literature, which naturally made it easy for him to understand. There are cheats. Ding. Sure enough, don't deceive me, there is a ding in time travel. He restrained his emotions and, following the system's prompts, stared at the cage for 5 seconds. As expected, a concise line of text appeared in his field of vision. Dog cage, normal level, can be equipped. Yang Xiaobai breathed a sigh of relief. Since it showed that it could be equipped, he felt relieved. No matter what danger he encounters, he has developed a certain ability to resist. Now, just watch the poor performances of Wang Ju and Li Jiangling quietly. He wants to see what these two guys really want to do. Everyone was still searching for the key everywhere. Only Yang Xiaobai sitting in the cage could clearly see Wang Ju and Li Jiangling occasionally smiling at each other, with a meaningful smile on their lips. Through the iron mesh, Yang Xiaobai's gaze was somewhat cold. Although I don't know what kind of conflict had arisen between my predecessor and these two guys, which made them resort to tricks to torture themselves in such a dangerous place like Zombie City. But that didn't affect him. In his heart, these two guys were already one of the living corpses. Chapter 4. Do I have parents or not? You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the open warehouse, apart from some old appliances piled up in the corner, there were only a few messy bedding beds on the ground. Quickly, everyone had searched the ground and did not find any keys. Zhou Rou straightened up and frowned, asking, Wang Refu, think carefully again. Where exactly did you lose the key? If I knew where I had lost it, would I still use it to search here? Wang declined and glanced at Yang Xiaobai in the cage, casually saying. Perhaps it was left outside, I'll go out and look for it. Li Jiangling let out a bitter smile and then had to move away from the things piled up at the warehouse entrance and walk outside. A girl who was speaking earlier quickly stepped forward and grabbed his arm. Are you crazy? The zombie swarm becomes more active at night, and we are in an absolute passive position in the darkness. If we go out now and encounter live corpses, there is no chance of survival. Let's wait until dawn before we talk. This girl's name is Feng Qian. She has a delicate and charming figure, a small stature, and a doll-like face that is easily lovable. It's completely different from Zhou Rou's image of a cold and aloof elder sister. If Yang Xiaobai remembers correctly, Feng Qian should be a top student in a certain humanities class at Jiangyuan No. 1 Middle School. Li Jiangling gave Wang a subtle refusal, and the latter immediately said with great righteousness, but Yang Xiaobai is still in the cage, without a key or other tools, it's impossible to open it. Let's go out and take a look, Li Jiangling and I must have left the key on the road before. Don't worry, we will be more careful. After speaking, the two of them coincidentally moved the things at the warehouse door 2 or 3 times and opened the warehouse door. Others didn't know whether to stop the two from taking such a risk. Yang Xiaobai sat cross-legged in the cage, watching coldly. There was a smile on the corner of my mouth. After all, he is just a child who has just taken the college entrance examination, and all his acting skills cannot escape his eyes. He has already died once, and now everyone seems to want to harm him. If these two people's idea is to kill him and it's not easy to take action in front of everyone, then their best way is to use the hand of a living corpse. Now that they are locked in a cage and unable to move, it is their best opportunity to take action. As for the key, it must have been hidden in a secret corner by Wang Refuse and Li Jiangling long ago. Maybe it's already lost. Suddenly, someone squatted on the ground next to him, approaching the cage. They're not quite right, there's a high possibility they're trying to assassinate you, be careful. Yang Xiaobai looked in shock and it turned out to be Zhou Rou. He pretended to be unaware and said, I don't think so. It's normal for some minor disagreements between classmates, but they shouldn't have killed me, right? They just said they're going to find me the key, I think they're pretty good. Zhou Rou helped her forehead and said, Xiaobai, you are still too kind. Yang Xiaobai chuckled inwardly. The bad guy he used to be was indeed kind, but now he has replaced him and lived a lifetime. Kind. An old fogey who used to work in the workplace, but also happened to live a new life, now his relationship with kindness is limited to understanding the word. Zhou Rou turned her head to look at Yang Xiaobai and saw that the others were not paying attention. She remained silent for a while, and a complex expression appeared on her delicate face. Finally, as if determined, he asked in a low voice, "Yang Xiaobai, have you ever offended any big shot before?" Yang Xiaobai didn't expect her to ask like that. What does that mean? He flipped through the memories of his predecessor with all his might, and realized that this guy had always been a bad person and had never offended anyone. Therefore, Wang Refu and Li Jiangling suddenly became confused about his actions. Not to mention any major figures, given the mediocre identity of their predecessors, it is basically difficult to intersect with any major figures. He replied with a bewildered expression, "I don't think so." "Have your parents ever offended anyone?" "I am an orphan." From his predecessor's memory, Yang Xiaobai knew he was an orphan, but when he was about to answer, he suddenly froze. Parents. Orphans. Not right. I feel like. No, my predecessor didn't seem to be an orphan. Apart from his memories from his previous life, this predecessor had two completely different memories of his parents. One memory is that he grew up in an orphanage, without a father or mother. And another kind is that he has met his parents. In a vast and spacious hall, his father, dressed in a black robe and a crown, sat solemnly on the throne at the end of the hall, lonely and eternal, as if the man in the black robe had been sitting there for endless years. And his mother slept soundly in a deep sea, surrounded by an invisible snake-like creature, enduring for eternity. Strangely, he never called them his parents, but he knew they were his own parents. Even more strangely, there is no impression of parents in the other memories of the predecessor. What's going on? Who are these two men and women who are obviously not ordinary people? Are they really the parents of their predecessors? Do I really have parents? Yang Xiaobai's mind once again turned into a chaotic mess. There is currently no answer to these matters. After a long time, Zhou Rou's anxious voice came to her ear. "Xiaobai, are you talking?" Yang Xiaobai shook his head, rubbed his cheeks, and made himself clearer. "I am an orphan, without parents, and have never offended anyone important." Zhou Rou frowned and murmured to herself, "That's strange. You didn't offend anyone. How could that be?" With a faint voice, Yang Xiaobai couldn't hear clearly. He asked after him, "What are you saying? Do you know something?" Zhou Rou looked around the warehouse, and the others were also chatting in groups of 3 or 2, not paying attention to this side. She leaned closer and was about to say something when a loud voice exploded outside the warehouse door. Bang! It's the sound of gunfire. Yang Xiaobai heard this kind of noise when he was wandering in the martial arts world in his past life. Shortly after the gunshots fell, the warehouse gate was kicked open, and Wang Ju and Li Jiangling rushed in. "There's a group of living corpses behind. Run quickly." Li Jiangling's face turned pale as she gasped for breath and shouted. This sentence was like a giant stone thrown into a dead pool of water, instantly scaring everyone to the point of their hair standing on end. It's too late to ask what happened now. Once surrounded by live corpses, there's only one dead end. Wang Ju quickly pushed a few old appliances from the side to block the door. "Hurry up and help. The front door can't get out, block the front door and run through the back door." 2 boys quickly stepped forward to help hold some old appliances and block the door. Zhou Rou suddenly stood up and asked urgently, "Wang Ju, have you two found the keys?" "No, the two of us didn't go too far when we met a large group of wandering zombies." "Stop talking, hurry up and run through the back door, these appliances can't stop so many zombies." Zhou Rou's face changed. They had previously observed this warehouse and there were 2 doors, one in front and one in back. But it should be due to the separation of people and goods. The front door is wide and vehicles can pass through, while the back door is narrow and only allows for one person to pass through. If there is no key, how can Yang Xiaobai get out of the cage by the back door? Chapter 5. Exchange of Situations. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. We can run, what about Xiaobai? Wang refused without even responding, we can't care about him anymore. Without the key, we can't get out of the cage. We can't take him away. Hurry up, if we don't leave, we'll die in the mouth of a living corpse. Outside, you can already hear the footsteps of many people, densely packed and chaotic. It is estimated that at least 20 or 30 live corpses have been chased after. Although there were 10 candidates on site, facing dozens of lifeless corpses without pain or emotion, they had no courage to resist. Not long after Wang's voice fell, the large iron door of the warehouse suddenly heard irregular knocking sounds, as if many people were competing to knock on the door. Not only knocking on the door, but also the more dull sound of collisions, as if someone was banging their head against the door. Even mixed with the piercing sound of nails picking on the metal sheet. Ah! They're here. The girl wearing glasses screamed and her body trembled uncontrollably. I'm not fucking deaf. Run. Li Jiangling directly threw the old electrical appliances on the ground, took out a pistol from his waist and ran to the back door. Wang refused to continue blocking the door and wanted to escape with a few people through the back door. But when he turned around, he saw Zhou Rou half squatting in front of the cage, trying to cut open the cage door with a piece of unknown electrical appliance. The electrical appliances piled up behind the warehouse gate had been pushed unsteadily by the living corpses outside, clearly unable to hold on for much longer. At this moment, only myself, Zhou Rou, and Yang Xiaobai, who were locked in cages, were in the warehouse, while the others had already withdrawn. Wang refused to grit his teeth and quickly ran to Zhou Rou to grab her arm. Hurry up. How could this thing cut open the iron cage? Let him stay here. Zhou Rou turned back to look at him in an instant and gritted her teeth, saying, It's you who locked him in the cage. It's also you who threw away the key. It's you who went out and brought the living corpse over. Are you going to hit your classmates hard for a C-level forbidden weapon? Wang refused to let go of Zhou Rou's arm like an electric shock and looked at her in panic. How do you know? Are you also? Yang Xiaobai listened to their conversation with a bewildered expression on his face, and for a moment, his brain was a bit paralyzed. What does it mean? C-level suppressor. What? According to the two of them, the reason why Wang refused to target himself was not entirely his own intention, but also for a C-level forbidden device. Things are starting to become more complicated. He originally thought that Wang Ju and Li Jiangling were just ordinary conflicts between classmates, but based on existing clues, there were also other black hands interspersed in between. Thinking back to Zhou Rou's previous question, have you or your parents ever offended anyone important? So a simple idea came to Yang Xiaobai's mind. In this forbidden domain of the college entrance examination, someone used a C-level forbidden device to buy their own life. Daring to make moves during the national martial arts examination, no wonder he is the big shot in Zhou Rou's mouth. But now these are not important. What he can be certain of now is that Wang refuses to want his own life. That's enough, otherwise I would really feel a bit guilty. Zhou Rou gave Wang Refu a resentful glare and didn't say anything more. She turned around and looked at Yang Xiaobai through the iron fence. I'm sorry. The tone was filled with guilt. After all, when Yang Xiaobai was locked in a cage, none of their classmates refused. The door of the warehouse has been pushed open by live corpses, and several pale arms have reached through the crack, unconsciously tapping against the debris behind the door. Wang refused to take a glance at those gloomy arms and whispered in fear, Zhou Rou, hurry up, let's talk about something when we go out. Unable to open the cage, Zhou Rou had to stand up. Just as she was about to leave with Wang Refu, Yang Xiaobai, who had been silent all along, finally made a move. He suddenly spoke up and said, Wang Refu, why don't you stay? He tightly grasped the corner of the cage with his right hand and silently said to himself, equipment. The sound of the system echoed in my heart at the same time. You are equipped with a regular level, dog cage, defense +1, obtaining dog cage attribute ability. Imprisonment, level D. Within a 10-meter radius of your body, you can lock a life target, use spatial confinement, and trap it in place. Wang Refu, who had already turned around with Zhou Rou and was preparing to escape, overheard a strange voice behind him and unintentionally turned around to take a look. I saw the dog cage that was originally locked with Yang Xiaobai suddenly turn into a dark black light and penetrate his body, disappearing without a trace. Wang's eyeballs almost flew out, didn't they? Where's the cage? What about such a big cage? Are you? He thought of some possibility. Being stimulated in the forbidden domain has a certain chance of awakening extraordinary abilities. Before he could finish speaking, Yang Xiaobai suddenly turned his palm towards Wang Refu and directly used the exclusive ability of the system host, Equipment Manifestation. Manifestation. His head seemed to be pressed by something, and Wang refused to instinctively lower his head to dodge. Unexpectedly, a flower appeared in front of him, with crisscrossing iron nets. When he wanted to stand up straight, he found himself trapped in a cage. Previously locked Yang Xiaobai's cage. Hee, Wang Refu, does it feel good to be confined in a cage? Do you have a feeling of returning home? Yang Xiaobai moved his muscles and bones, rubbed his neck, and walked casually towards Wang Ju. Zhou Rou, standing beside her, witnessed everything with her own eyes and was at a loss for a moment. The changes in the field exceeded her cognition. Is the cage holding Yang Xiaobai locked, and in the blink of an eye is Wang Refu? What's going on? Now, instead of being frightened, Wang refused. He kicked and bumped fiercely at the cage door, but the strength of this large dog cage far exceeded his imagination. Although the cage has undergone some deformation, there are no signs of any cracks or gaps. Yang Xiaobai, let me out quickly, you'll kill me if you do this. Yang Xiaobai glanced at the warehouse gate and felt that it would take some time for the live corpses to completely squeeze in. If it doesn't kill you, why should I lock you up? Does the orc experience it? Wang Refu became even more anxious and said, Yang Xiaobai, do you know what it means to kill me in the forbidden domain? Knowing means you have been killed in the forbidden domain. Wang refused, his tone softened and he said, by Gu. Yang Gu. Let me out quickly. My father is Wang Ziyuan. If he knows you killed me in the forbidden domain, you can't escape either. It's okay, even if your father is Li Gang, I'm not afraid. I just treated you the way you treated me, and you can't take it anymore. Be good, squeeze into the middle of the cage, maybe those live corpses won't touch you. After speaking, he no longer paid attention to the mournful plea for mercy in the cage and the cursing Wang refused. He turned around and headed towards the back door. Xiaobai, have you awakened your abilities? Zhou Rou finally came to her senses and asked incredulously. Yang Xiaobai glanced at her and said, is it hard to imagine? Zhou Rou shook her head. Let's talk about it outside. Seeing that the warehouse gate was about to be pushed open, Yang Xiaobai ran towards the back door without looking back. What about Wang's refusal? He was just momentarily confused, and... I know you're kind, but if you plead, there's no need. He must die. If you like him, you can have a candlelight dinner in the belly of a living corpse. Zhou Rou felt a chill and looked pitifully at Wang Refu, who was bowing his body in the cage and desperately trying to break through the cage door. She had no way to rescue Wang Ju, and Yang Xiaobai had no way to do it in the cage before. Now that Wang Ju has been replaced, it's still the same. But compared to Yang Xiaobai, if the deceased is Wang Refu, it is not unacceptable. After all, the initiator of everything is his own refusal, and it belongs to being trapped in a cocoon. With a sigh, she followed closely behind Yang Xiaobai and ran out through the back door. At this moment, the front door of the warehouse was finally pushed open by a group of live corpses. A group of pale-skinned corpses peeked out from behind the door with eerie smiles on their heads. Slowly crawling towards the king in the cage. Chapter 6. Who? Me. Assassinate me. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After coming out of the back door of the warehouse, Yang Xiaobai did not find the whereabouts of the others. Where are the others? Zhou Rou, who was closely following behind, also looked puzzled. Good question, I don't know, Yang Xiaobai responded calmly, frowning and looking at the towering buildings not far away. D213 Forbidden Area, Zombie City, is a quite unique place. When it first appeared, it was a dilapidated city with only living corpses, and although the danger level was only D level, it occupied a huge area. The aerial view of Zombie City is a huge concentric circle. It is surrounded by two tall circular city walls. Within the small circle, it is the inner city. Beyond the small circle, there is the outer city. The strangeness of this city is that it is dilapidated, ancient, desolate, with no living people, but there is still electricity, and many power facilities are still working tirelessly. It was already late at night, and there were still some street lights lingering on both sides of the street, emitting dim yellow lights. In the warehouse behind me, suddenly came a mournful roar. The scream lasted for less than half a minute before falling silent, leaving only the sound of tearing and chewing. Zhou Rou's face turned pale, and her body seemed to be slightly soft. She involuntarily approached Yang Xiaobai. Yang Xiaobai glanced sideways at her, ignoring the subtle softness emanating from her arms. Where did those guys go? Zhou Rou's tone was filled with fear. Even though her fighting skills rank among the top in the martial arts class, it is difficult for her to unleash her strength in the face of those painless zombies in the zombie city. There's not enough time to think so much, let's find a place to settle down first. Wandering on the street at night, it's easy to encounter live corpses, Yang Xiaobai said decisively. Zhou Rou nodded and closely followed Yang Xiaobai as she ran towards the nearby building. In this situation, following Yang Xiaobai, who has already awakened her extraordinary abilities, obviously makes her feel more secure. Although there are also many live corpses in the outer city, fortunately, the outer city is vast and the number of live corpses is not as dense. The two carefully crossed the street and entered an office building. This place looks very quiet, without the dragging footsteps and meaningless mournful cries of zombies walking in other places. The only nearby building is here, which is closest to the back door of the warehouse. Perhaps Fang Qian and the others have come here. Zhou Rou breathed a long sigh of relief. The first-floor lobby of the office building is equipped with tempered glass induction doors, which have long been damaged and cannot function properly. They can be opened and closed casually from time to time, even if no one is seen, they will suddenly open, making it quite permeable in the dark. The first-floor gate cannot be completely closed, and any living corpse can enter. It is not safe to walk upstairs. Without taking the elevator, entering a completely enclosed space in the zombie city is equivalent to dying. Perhaps after the elevator door opens, you will see a pile of live corpses rushing towards you. Just come and catch a turtle in a jar, there's nowhere to hide. Climbing to the 5th floor in one breath, the two carefully stopped their steps. This type of office building belongs to a very old architectural style. After coming out of the elevator, you can see many safety doors along the roundabout corridor, with various small company signs hanging on the upper left corner of the doors. Check if there is an open door, go ahead and wait until dawn before we talk, Yang Xiaobai said. Without waiting for Zhou Rou to agree, he walked forward. Explore the first office. He didn't directly push the door, but instead lay on the door, holding his breath and concentrating, quietly listening for a moment to see if there was any movement inside. Then try pushing the door again. After discovering it was locked, he continued to try the next room. After trying 5 or 6 rooms in a row, I finally found an office without a locked door. Tell Zhou Rou to stay away, and Yang Xiaobai carefully pushes open the safety door. The interior of the door was pitch black, and in such an environment, whether or not there was electricity, he dared not turn on the lights, otherwise he could see the presence of living people at a glance from outside the building. Tap lightly on the college entrance examination recorder worn between your wrists, and a faint light illuminates the previously pitch-black office, making it visible. Carefully investigated the indoor conditions. This seems to be a small advertising company, with only one boss's office inside, this 40 to 50 square meter lobby and a restroom. No other humans or live corpses were found. Stay here tonight, so far it seems safe, Yang Xiaobai said. Zhou Rou chuckled and said, Xiaobai, it seems like you have changed your personality. Before, you were not so cautious. It seems that a person in the forbidden domain can really grow very quickly. Hehe, maybe. After locking the door, Yang Xiaobai grabbed Zhou Rou's hand and entered the office inside. Zhou Rou was suddenly startled by his rough movements. In her impression, Yang Xiaobai has always been a gentle and kind image of a good person. In the current situation of a solitary man and a widow living in the same room, Yang Xiaobai suddenly grabbed her hand, and she couldn't help but think about some aspects of not dating children. Xiaobai, let go of me. Although we are all in the zombie city, the recorder will have surveillance. If you do anything to me here. With a loud bang, the door to the boss's office closed, and Yang Xiaobai used the dim light of the recorder to silently look at Zhou Rou, who was panicked in the darkness. Shut up. I'm not interested in you for the time being. Keep your voice down, and if you attract a living corpse, I'll throw you out first. Sure enough, such threatening words still had a bit of intimidation, and Zhou Rou immediately closed her mouth. Looking innocently at Yang Xiaobai sitting at the desk at this moment. Do you know anything? Yang Xiaobai asked. What are you saying? I'm not sure. This question instantly made Zhou Rou feel a little flustered. Do you know what I'm asking? Do you think I'm deaf when you and Wang Ju said things like 4AC.level forbidden device before? Yang Xiaobai spoke harshly. After all, he had no intention of showing any mercy towards his own life or death. Zhou Rou sighed and pondered for a while. I know you will definitely ask about this matter. Nonsense, they want to assassinate me. I can't keep it unclear, can I? In fact, I am a bit strange about this matter. You should know that 10 years ago, the mist outside the partially forbidden domain dissipated, and humans could freely enter it, and life within the forbidden domain could also come out. Starting from the behavior of creatures in the forbidden realm, their goal is to capture Earth, while the goal of humans is to enter the forbidden realm and awaken and enhance their extraordinary abilities. In the past decade, not only official personnel have been able to enter the forbidden territory, but also some adventurers, gangsters, mercenaries, and even many ordinary people have flocked to it to awaken their abilities. Although those civil organizations have suffered heavy casualties, the number of awakened individuals is also increasing, including some strong ones. 7 years ago, several strong members of the awakening community jointly established an organization called Xiancheng, which is now one of the largest awakening groups in the community. Yang Xiaobai couldn't help but interject, so what does this have to do with me? Later, Xiancheng established a private dark web forum. Before the college entrance examination, the official organization of Xiancheng suddenly released an assassination mission, with a reward of a C.level banned weapon worth billions of yuan. Yang Xiaobai was taken aback and said, Who? Me. Assassinate me. Chapter 7. I owe the country 300 points in the college entrance examination. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Yes, I assassinated you as a reward with a C.level forbidden weapon, that's why I asked if you offended any big shot. Zhou Rou clearly didn't quite understand. Can you tell me what a C.level prohibition device is first? From his original memory, Yang Xiaobai did not find any words such as forbidden tools. Zhou Rou looked at Yang Xiaobai, whose face was blurry in the darkness, in embarrassment. I can't actually tell you these things, but since you have awakened your abilities, it's okay to let you know these things in advance. 10 years ago, the mist in the forbidden region continued to dissipate, and humans entered it to awaken their extraordinary abilities. In this process, we are also grading these already discovered forbidden domains. I am not sure about the situation abroad, but in China alone, there are 12 confirmed D.level restricted areas, 7 C.level restricted areas, 4 B.level restricted areas, and 1 A.level restricted area. Yang Xiaobai chuckled inwardly, knowing only in his original memory that the world had already opened many forbidden domains, and there was no specific data available among the public. How did you know this news? Zhou Ro gave a meaningful glance and said after a moment of silence. Zhou Judo said, "My, Wang Ju, and Li Jiangling's relatives all have awakened extraordinary beings. The internal forum of the Xianqing organization will be open to all extraordinary beings, and some internal situations will only be known to the extraordinary and their close relatives." Forbidden devices refer to tools, weapons, armor, and even various tools with extraordinary power discovered within the forbidden domain. It is also divided into 5 levels based on its power. S, A, B, C, and D. Moreover, it is quite regular that different levels of forbidden devices can only be found in the corresponding level's forbidden domain. A C.level banned device starts at a price of at least 100 million on the black market. So I can't figure it out. Who did you offend as an ordinary senior high school student? It will make people spend a C.level forbidden device to buy your life before the college entrance examination. After listening to these words, Yang Xiaobai finally understood why Wang Refu and Li Jiangling were secretly targeting him. Perhaps they also received internal information about the narrow victory, and any superhero would not be unmoved when faced with a C.level forbidden device. Perhaps the reason why Wang and the others wanted to kill themselves was because of the superhero behind them. No, I remember Li Jiangling discovered a handgun. Isn't it easier to just give me a shot? Why do you beat around the bush and put me in a cage, risking your life to provoke a group of live corpses? Zhou Ro gave him a strange glance and said leisurely, "Have you forgotten the recorder on our wrist?" I understand. The D.level forbidden zone will eliminate all outsiders during the annual national military examination, including but not limited to adventurers, mercenaries, and ordinary people who want to awaken, and then be completely controlled by the state. At this time, only 1 million candidates are entering from different directions outside the restricted area. 10 people in a group, and the tasks in different forbidden examination rooms are also different. For example, the task of Zombie City is to enter the inner city center from the outer city and obtain the official promotion token placed in the inner city in advance. The candidate who obtains the token also means they have obtained a university quota. During the process of entering the inner city, if you awaken your abilities and become a superhero, you will also receive a university spot. The most important point is the ranking of the college entrance examination. The point system of Zombie City is to earn 1 point for killing 1 laughter, and 10 points for killing 1 wailer. Other examination centers also have similar point systems, with similar differences. I have to mention the origin of the name of a living corpse here. At first, this forbidden area was named Corpse City, and the walking corpses were extremely similar to the zombies in the movie Resident Evil, also known as zombies. But as we delve deeper, the authorities have discovered that this monster is not truly unconscious and only knows how to bite like zombies. They have consciousness. The consciousness of living people. They are very rare, and their mobility is not as wobbly as zombies, stretching their arms only knowing how to catch and bite people. They have lower intelligence and no pain or perception, but as long as their bodies are intact, they can even make sounds, even though they are just simple vocabulary. They can sit, stand, run, jump, climb walls, take elevators, and even some slightly intelligent zombies can use tools. This is a zombie that is completely different from the human impression. This time, the Corpse City was renamed as the Living Corpse City, and these monsters were officially named Living Corpses. The laughter and wailer are the hierarchical divisions of living corpses. Living corpses also have a habit of eating, and their digestive function still maintains normal operation. The more living people eat, the stronger the hardness and reaction speed of the body. The faces of lower-level zombies maintain a strange smile, known as the giggler, while more powerful zombies occasionally mourn and cry, and are named the wailer. The process of candidates slaughtering in this zombie city will be monitored by the college entrance examination recorder on their wrists and ranked in real time. The function of monitoring is not only to record the killing of live corpses by candidates, but also to prevent them from killing each other, leading to vicious competition and talent loss. The reason why Wang Ju and Li Jiangling did not directly target Yang Xiaobai and instead resorted to beating around the bush to attract live corpses was because they wanted to receive a reward for C-level banned weapons and did not want to bear the charge of being a candidate for mutual harm. After thinking through these things, Yang Xiaobai suddenly remembered something. Did the recorder already see me using my ability to trap Wang Refu in a dog cage? Zhou Rou rolled her eyes and said, otherwise. I wanted to remind you, but you were so fierce back then and there were living corpses chasing after you, so I had to swallow my words. What punishment will you get if you kill your classmates? Yang Xiaobai couldn't help but ask. Deduct 300 points. If your score remains negative after the college entrance examination, you will be executed, regardless of whether you awaken your abilities and obtain a token. The country doesn't need people who kill each other and are useless. Yang Xiaobai's mouth twitched. So, his score is already .300. Even with the remaining 90 team points added, I still owe 210 points. 210 points. Kill at least 210 giggles or 21 mourners. I have now obtained the system, as well as the host-specific ability to manifest, and the dog cage attribute ability to imprison. But in fact, there are no means of direct combat to kill. Yang Xiaobai frowned and pondered. There are still 2 equipment racks left, and 2 items with lethal power must be equipped. By the way, I was anxious just now. I didn't hear the prompt from the system to obtain the imprisonment ability, so I directly used the dog cage to trap Wang Refu. The items that have already been equipped cannot be dismantled, so I have to go back to the warehouse to collect my dog cage. Not now, wait until dawn. Suddenly, Zhou Rou reached out to cover Yang Xiaobai's lips and nervously pressed her red lips against Yang Xiaobai's face. Don't know. You probably think so. Shoo. Zhou Rou leaned close to his ear and lowered her voice, listen outside the door. Yang Xiaobai calmed down and cautiously approached the door of the boss's office, placing his ear against it. Passing through the outside workstation, there seemed to be a knocking sound coming from the entrance. That was a rhythmic knocking on the door. Dong, dong. Chapter 8. Equipping a fruit knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dong, dong. The sudden knocking outside the door stunned both of them, and in this situation, no one knew what had happened. Zhou Rou whispered, can it be Fang Qian and Li Jiangling? Yang Xiaobai shook his head and said, I'm not sure. When we came out, they disappeared without a trace. This office building is closest to the warehouse, so they probably hid here too. But this building has at least 20 floors, shouldn't it be so coincidental? Perhaps it's candidates from other teams, Zhou Rou said again. Yang Xiaobai is still unsure. On June 6, the Zombie City Examination Center saw nearly 1 million candidates pouring in from all directions in batches. Although the area was vast, the likelihood of encountering other candidates was extremely high. This is the second day of the college entrance examination, and it is normal to meet other candidates in the outer city. The knocking on the door continued, and after Yang Xiaobai and his wife fell silent, they could even hear someone whispering. I'll go to the door and take a look. Yang Xiaobai felt quite puzzled when the people outside didn't leave. I'll follow you, be careful. Zhou Rou was clearly afraid to stay in place alone. The two slowed down their movements and tiptoed open the door to the boss's office inside. They tiptoed lightly through the workstation area and leaned against the door. After signaling to silence, Yang Xiaobai did some psychological construction and bravely looked out from the cat's eye. Dong, dong. The knocking on the door continued. Through the cat's eye, a young man dressed in ordinary clothes lowered his head and tapped on the safety door with one palm bent. The only light source outside the door comes from the escape sign at the safety exit, which is very dim and cannot be seen clearly. Zhou Rou listened carefully against the door, and the young man seemed to be murmuring words. Bastard, why did you make me work overtime in the middle of the night? Bastard, why did you make me work overtime in the middle of the night? Over and over again, there are only these two sentences. Suddenly, the young man outside the door seemed to notice someone peering at him inside. He suddenly lifted his head, revealing a pale face with a cracked corner of his mouth and a strange smile. My grass. Even though Yang Xiaobai had seen a lot in his previous life, he was still frightened by the eerie atmosphere and spewed out a sentence of national essence from his teeth. Live corpses. Absolutely a living corpse. Live corpses will have a certain level of consciousness and act according to certain grievances or attachments during their lifetime. It is not difficult to tell from the repetitive words in his mouth that he was also a respectable worker before his death. Yang Xiaobai's face was so frightened that it looked like a sign for a safety exit. He quickly dodged to the side and leaned his back against the wall. Zhou Rou was also startled by his movements and couldn't help but hang herself on him. The subtle movements inside the door did not seem to escape the ears of the living corpse outside. When he found out that there were humans inside, his knocking force instantly increased. Bang, bang. The loud sound spread far and wide in the originally quiet corridor. Yang Xiaobai had no doubt that this voice could be heard on many floors upstairs and downstairs. It's over, it's over. If he knocks it down like this, it will definitely attract more live corpses. Zhou Rou's voice has been slightly distorted by fear. Yang Xiaobai gritted his teeth and said, kill him. Ah. After all, Zhou Rou is a girl, so she's a bit timid. Even though I know that entering the Zombie City College entrance examination cannot avoid such things, today is only the first day of entering the city, and it is really difficult to change my mindset for a while. Turn on the lights on the recorder and see if there are any handy guys. Empty hands won't be his opponent. Hurry up and don't let him provoke more zombies. After speaking, Yang Xiaobai had already used the light of the recorder to explore the tools that could be used in the room. After Zhou Rou reacted, she quickly joined in. The two searched for half a day but couldn't find any weapons to defend themselves. Among this small advertising company, the most common ones are various folders and advertising designs, office supplies such as staplers, and at most, a few spare laptops. You can't use these to fight against zombies. The weaknesses of living corpses are their cervical spine and head, but judging from the hardness of human skulls, unless Yang Xiaobai is a strongman, he can use a computer to flatten the head of the boy outside the door who is shouting to work overtime. Bang, bang. The knocking on the door had become louder and louder, causing the old walls near the door to rustle down. Hurry up and take a look elsewhere. Yang Xiaobai went straight into the bathroom. After flipping inside, he looked at a toilet seat and a mop, lost in thought. How can this thing beat a living corpse? Utilizing system capabilities, he stared at various things for 5 seconds. Most of them show that they can be equipped. But what is my cat's equipment for a toilet seat? Brush the teeth of that living corpse. Nausea. The picture is too beautiful to imagine. At this moment, Zhou Ruing rushed in, clutching a fruit knife that was 7 or 8 centimeters long. Xiao Bai, I found a fruit knife in the office inside. I'm not sure if it works. Yang Xiaobai said with a bitter face, is there nothing else? Zhou Rou handed the fruit knife to Yang Xiaobai and said awkwardly, it's gone. Forget it, let's treat the dead horse as a living horse doctor. You can take this scoop for self-defense, and I'll try this fruit knife first to see if it's useful. As he spoke, he casually handed the toilet seat to Zhou Rou, who looked speechless. This thing had a hard time killing even a cockroach, but could it be used to beat a living corpse? She threw it back to the ground with great disdain. Yang Xiaobai didn't care. If even this fruit knife couldn't help them get out of danger, then he really had to explain it here. Grasping the fruit knife tightly, he muttered to himself, equipment. In the darkness, it was unclear whether there was a black light flashing through. Yang Xiaobai felt a light in his palm, and the fruit knife had lost its trace. At the same time, the system's prompt sounded in his mind, and a line of text appeared in his sight. You are equipped with a regular level, fruit knife, attack +1, obtaining the fruit knife attribute ability. Sharpness, sharp, D. Level. Your right hand undergoes a mutation and can deal a knife wound. Note: do not use this ability to strike anything with a hardness greater than the item being equipped, otherwise this ability is highly likely to become dull. Without paying attention to the notes at the end, Yang Xiaobai quietly felt the sudden warmth in his body, as if his limbs had slightly increased in strength. Is this the optimization of attack power +1? Last time, there seemed to have been such a change in defense +1, but at that time he was busy trying to trap Wang Refu in a cage and didn't notice it. Gripping his right hand, he felt the newly acquired sharpness again. It seems to have turned into a fruit knife in one's own palm. Whether one hits with a fist or chops with the palm, it will create a knife wound effect on the enemy. Isn't this ability weak now? Yang Xiaobai has confidence to cooperate with the attribute ability of the dog cage to imprison and kill the annoying living corpse outside. Chapter 9. Killing of Living Corpse. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhou Rou, come open the door and hide behind the door as soon as you open it. Don't make any noise, leave the rest to me, Yang Xiaobai instructed. Zhou Rou only knew that he had awakened extraordinary abilities, but she was not sure about the specific abilities. She recalled the cage where Yang Xiaobai had been locked before and suddenly appeared next to Wang Ju. Perhaps it's transforming one item into another place. Ability similar to spatial movement. Are you confident? She couldn't help but worry. Regardless of whether you are confident or not, you must give it a try. If you don't solve that living corpse, the increasing knocking on the door will surely startle more living corpses to come. If you are trapped in this room, that is the true death without life. Zhou Rou nodded and both of them walked behind the safety door. Bang, bang. The eerie and rhythmic knocking on the door continued. I'll count 3, 2, 1, then you open the door. Yang Xiaobai said softly. Nervously pulling the door handle, Zhou Rou saw sweat on her forehead. She wanted to open the door and let in a living corpse, which made her feel stimulated. But the situation was urgent, and even with fear, she had to face it. She gritted her silver teeth and nodded hard. 3, 2, 1. Open the door. Zhou Rou responded by forcefully opening the lock and pulling it hard. The door opened, and the living corpse was also stunned. The hand knocking on the door was still in the air, feeling lost for a moment. Immediately after, in its remaining consciousness, the thought of devouring the living made it frantically rush towards Yang Xiaobai. In this short moment, Yang Xiaobai raised his palm and aimed it at the oncoming corpse, whispering in his heart, imprisonment. His battle idea is very simple. First, use the dog cage attribute ability to imprison the living corpse in place, and then immediately wrap around it behind it and use the sharpness to slash it randomly at its neck. No matter how fierce a living corpse is, once the spinal cord that connects the nerves is broken, it will lose its ability to move. But the living corpse still pounced on him without any impact on his movements. Imprisonment. It's no longer effective. My grass. Without much time to think, Yang Xiaobai rolled on the spot and used his own body as a stumbling block. using all his strength to collide with the calf of the living corpse. The force in the opposite direction indeed made the center of gravity of the body of the living corpse unstable, and a dog fell to the ground while eating feces. Yang Xiaobai was also kicked by the tremendous force of his calves, causing pain in all his organs. But we can't stop now. He immediately flipped over and sat on the back of the living corpse, raising his fist and hammering the neck of the corpse lying on the ground. The ability to imprison has failed, but fortunately, the sharpness is still there. One punch after another hits the spine of this living corpse, and suddenly cold blood sprays out. If you look closely, the area hit by Yang Xiaobai's fist is not the fist mark, but rather a series of ferocious and cracked knife edges. This is the ability of sharpness. But the living corpse did not feel pain, and its strength was surprisingly strong. Although it was pressed to the ground by Yang Xiaobai, it still struggled as if it was about to turn over. Zhou Ro, close the door quickly and hold him down together. I can't hold him down alone. Although Zhou Ro is not very brave, at least she is also a martial arts student. She doesn't know how to shout or cry like those vase girls in times of crisis. Upon hearing this, although his body was trembling, he still gritted his teeth and jumped out from behind the door. He locked the door and pressed his butt against the back of the living corpse. The weight of the two finally calmed down the struggling zombie. Yang Xiaobai took the opportunity to punch hard one after another, and after an unknown amount of time, he was exhausted and seemed to collapse, realizing that the living corpse beneath him was no longer moving. He suddenly leaned back as if he had lost all his strength. Zhou Ro has been desperately pressing down on the body of the living corpse behind him. At this moment, Yang Xiaobai fell backwards, but happened to lie in her soft embrace. Xiaobai, are you okay? She helped Yang Xiaobai and asked with a slightly red face. Fortunately, the light was dim, and she was behind Yang Xiaobai. This little girl's posture, which was completely different from the usual cold martial arts goddess, was not seen by him. It's okay, just take a break. This guy should be dead. The two of them carefully felt that there was no movement under their bodies, and then flipped over and fell to the floor. Ha! Yang Xiaobai took a few deep breaths, feeling like he had survived a disaster. Then there was a wave of anger. He roared in his heart, "System, you son of a bitch, why does imprisonment fail?" The regular level equipment, dog cage, is currently in use and its attribute abilities cannot be used. Yang Xiaobai is full of anger, Mada didn't say it earlier. In fact, he also realized that the problem was with himself. When he first equipped the dog cage, he did not pay attention to displaying items from the equipment rack, so he could not use imprisonment. The items that have already been equipped cannot be dismantled, and there is a reserved space for the dog cage in the equipment column. It seems that we still need to retrieve that item. The two of them were lying on the ground, and Zhou Ro suddenly asked tentatively, "Your awakened ability should be a mutation system, right?" Yang Xiaobai was taken aback for a moment, and naturally knew what the mutation system she was talking about meant. The World Forbidden Area Research Institute divides the extraordinary abilities that humans acquire from forbidden areas into 8 systems based on their types. Enhancement, mutation, manifestation, perception, elements, summoning, soul, and zombification. The ability demonstrated by Yang Xiaobai to store items in unknown spaces is clearly not a manifestation or summoning ability. The ability to manifest is the concrete transformation of an object from consciousness, which is a state of something out of nothing. But it's not the way Yang Xiaobai needs to prepare props in advance to change the items again. The summoning ability is the ability to break through time and space, summoning various creatures from other worlds. Whether it is the manifestation or summoning ability, it is far from Yang Xiaobai's ability. Only the mysterious and peculiar mutation system can meet his definition of this ability. Yang Xiaobai knew she had misunderstood. His ability comes from the system, which equips an item in the equipment grid to obtain its attribute ability. This is an extraordinary power bestowed upon him by the system, whether it is unique or not is unknown, but this ability is indeed quite powerful. He nodded without giving any unnecessary explanation. Hiding clumsiness is always an essential and important rule in the jungle. Well, the mutation system. Being able to retrieve some items from within is a spatial ability, right? But now is not the time to say these things. Just leave this room and go upstairs. Although I don't know if the commotion just now will summon other living corpses, I have to prepare for the worst in order to handle everything with ease. And there are no tools available for borrowing in this office, so our luck won't be so good if there are any more zombies appearing. The failure of imprisonment just now really scared him in a cold sweat. Fortunately, this young body has learned some ancient martial arts skills and reacted quickly. Otherwise, if we were to stand there foolishly and wait for the powerful zombie to pounce, losing the opportunity, both of those people would have to finish playing. Zhou Rou also nodded and said, "Let's check if there is a key here. In case all the safety doors upstairs are locked, there won't be no way out for a while." Yoha, I didn't expect you to have such a cautious and meticulous side. I really thought you were that kind of beautiful vase. After overcoming the crisis of life and death, young Xiaobai clearly felt a little more relaxed in his heart. He had once again committed the problem of that bad man's flashy mouth in his previous life. Zhou Rou felt her face turn hot, so angry that she clenched her small fist and struck Yang Xiaobai's chest. Chapter 10. The Whereabouts of the Team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang Xiaobai, I really feel like you've changed. You shouldn't be joking like this before. The two of them rolled up from the ground, and Zhou Rou patted the dust off her body and casually said, "Oh, I'm a sulky type, I used to pretend," Yang Xiaobai replied perfunctorily, ignoring her thoughts. The tip of the foot kicked the living corpse lying on the ground, and its neck and spine were completely broken by Yang Xiaobai's fist. After confirming that the giggler had lost its mobility, Yang Xiaobai wiped the cold liquid from his face and walked straight to the bathroom. Turn on the faucet, only to find that there is no water flowing out. He shattered his idea of cleaning the live blood on his face and hands. So I had to take off my shirt and wipe it in front of the mirror. The light of the college entrance examination recorder was aimed at the mirror, and Yang Xiaobai finally saw the appearance of this body clearly. This body is around 18 years old, with a delicate face. Not only is it handsome, but at least it looks quite pleasing to the eye. A childish face remains intact. If it takes a few more years to polish, it should have a good appearance. I don't know how much better I look than my previous life with a big and thick beard. He touched his thick hair and murmured to himself, "Young is so good. Since I have come to this world, I will live well. Instead of you, instead of the new Yang Xiaobai." Footsteps came from behind, and Zhou Rou appeared behind him. Has the blood been cleaned up? The blood of a living corpse has a weak corrosive ability, and once it is contaminated with human skin for more than 2 hours, it may cause irreversible damage. Yang Xiaobai nodded and helplessly replied, "This damn place doesn't even have any water, so we can only wipe it with clothes." After confirming that the bloodstains on his face were basically clean, Yang Xiaobai turned around and said, "Let's go." Ignoring the body on the ground, the two searched the boss's office and found a spare key. After installation, the two of them opened the door and were about to leave when they heard a ding sound coming from the elevator room. Shoo! Yang Xiaobai quickly signaled for Zhou Rou to stop, and even the half-open door dared not move again, afraid of making any noise. This ding sound is the prompt for the elevator to reach the floor. I just don't know if someone came out or went in from the elevator. The two of them hid behind the door and listened attentively. The sound of the elevator door opening came, but strangely, there was no movement except for the expected footsteps. After 10 seconds, the elevator door closes. The two of them were still grand and dared not breathe. They remained silent in the darkness for a long time before daring to show their heads and take a look. Zhou Rou whispered, there's no sound, that means no one came out or in. It should be someone in the elevator who pressed the 5th floor but didn't come down on this floor. Yang Xiaobai nodded and said, I just don't know if it's a living corpse or a human. I'll go take a look first. After speaking, he crouched down and ran through the hallway to the elevator room at the corner. He crouched behind the corner and reached out to see how many floors the elevator had reached. Who knew he had just poked out half of his head, and his pale green face was bending down and staring directly at him. Yang Xiaobai felt his heart skip a beat, and his right hand instantly clenched its fist, wanting to punch sharp at this face. Ah! Little did he know that the owner of this face was even more scared than him, screaming in terror and falling to the ground. Yang Xiaobai quickly withdrew his fist and pounced to cover the man's mouth. Fang Qian, don't shout, don't shout. It's me, Yang Xiaobai. Yang Xiaobai has already recognized this girl, who is a member of the team that left with Li Jiangling and the others before, with a doll-faced Fang Qian. At this moment, Yang Xiaobai covered her mouth. Even in such a tense moment, he couldn't help but say to himself, this girl's face is so smooth. Although Yang Xiaobai has not had much contact with Fang Qian, he still knows her. Fang Qian is also a student of Jiangyuan No. 1 Middle School, but she is a humanities student. I heard she is still a top student. But what she is most famous for among those martial arts students who are in their adolescence is not her studies, but her delicate figure that seriously does not match her doll face. She is less than 1.6 meters tall, but her slender waist is already adorned with plump fruits. It's not an exaggeration to describe her as something huge like that child. Woo woo woo, it's you, Yang Xiaobai, almost scared me to death. After opening Yang Xiaobai's palm, Fang Qian choked up and cried with a slightly trembling voice. I still pity her pitiful appearance, with pear blossoms and rain. Yang Xiaobai wished to pat her forehead and soothe her soft soul. Why are you here? Forget it, this is not the place to talk. Don't cry for now, come with me. Lifting Fang Qian from the ground, Yang Xiaobai naturally supported the frightened girl and brought her back to the office. Zhou Rou had been poking her head half behind the safety door, paying attention to Yang Xiaobai and hearing the previous scream. But she knew that if she really encountered danger, even if she came out, she wouldn't be able to help Yang Xiaobai much, so she kept hiding and observing in the dark. When Yang Xiaobai helped Fang Qian over, she stared in disbelief and said, Fang Qian. Woo woo, Zhou Ruji, are you here too? Fortunately, I can still see you, Li Jiangling. Li Jiangling and all of them are dead. Yang Xiaobai and Zhou Rou were both startled and couldn't care about the idea of going upstairs. They quickly pulled Fang Qian into the office. Yang Xiaobai quickly asked, what's going on? How did they die? Fang Qian saw a corpse lying on the ground, and was startled again. She immediately crawled into Yang Xiaobai's arms. Yang Xiaobai pushed the girl away with a serious expression and said, don't make any fuss, someone is watching. The ambiguous words immediately made Fang Qian's ears hot, and her tense heart eased a lot. She broke free from Yang Xiaobai's arms and hid behind Zhou Rou. She timidly glanced at the living corpse on the ground, feeling a little scared in the darkness. She quickly turned her face away. Alright, I've already killed this living corpse, don't worry. Can you tell me how Li Jiangling and the others died first? Yang Xiaobai blocked her view with his body and asked. What exactly happened after you and Li Jiangling went out? Zhou Rou couldn't help but wonder. Apart from Wang Ju, Zhou Rou, and Yang Xiaobai, a total of 7 people left the warehouse. They thought Li Jiangling and others had entered this office building, but they didn't expect Fang Qian, who came out of the elevator, to bring back such bad news. Although Yang Xiaobai had the idea of killing Li Jiangling in his heart for a long time, the inexplicable death of this guy made him quite curious, and at the same time, a fear emerged from the depths of his heart. Feng Qian calmed down for a moment and immediately said something that made both Yang Xiaobai and Zhou Rou shudder. Li Jiangling was dismembered, and all the other members of the team were eaten by that guy.